be with you today. I am Kevin Lyons. I am the producer of the event stream, CEO and Chief Solutions Officer at Lyons & Solutions, and we want to welcome you to the stream today. This is such a great episode. We are talking about leveling up your speakers. Speakers can make or break not only your event, but your live stream, your interviews, everything. And today, in our community, we do a lot of live streaming and we have a lot of discussions about some of those fundamentals for speakers like lighting and sound and making sure they have the great microphones and the cameras and everything else. And we're going to touch a little bit about that today, but we're going to go a lot deeper with you today as we talk through what it takes to get them ready, get them prepared, finding your right presenters, finding that lineup, whether it's for that webinar or that big multi-day conference and event. So we welcome you to the show today. Definitely tell us where you're listening from. If you're watching on the event stream YouTube channel, please go ahead and like, subscribe, share, give it all together. And we just appreciate that. And we'll be getting to questions towards the end of the show. So definitely stick around. So before we jump in today, I want to thank our sponsors. We thank you, Ecamm Live. Ecamm has been a game changer for Lyons & Solutions, which is our organization, as we pivoted so many events to the virtual space. Ecamm's just been, it enables us to produce professional broadcast quality like you're seeing today across many speakers and many event opportunities that are out there. Ecamm, we appreciate your sponsorship. And TubeBuddy, if you have anything on YouTube and you want it to grow, everyone knows to grow something, you need to have some fertilizer, you need to have some great soil, some good seed. Well, think of TubeBuddy as the thing that brings all of that together for your YouTube channel. So we have some great people coming in. We have J-Man coming in. We have Tana Solid. Let me just say a couple early hellos to everyone. Whoa, right under me. So lit, nice, great. And then J-Man speaks, excited for the live stream today. Thanks so much. Yeah, that was nice and over my head, right? All right, well, let's get started. I want to bring on Brittany and Amy. Let's jump into the stream. Amy and Brittany, how you guys doing?
Hey, how's everyone doing?
Good. Awesome, man. We have such an amazing topic today. First, we have a couple of people jumping in here. And hey, Tana's so lit. I'm loving Ecamm, great improvements often. I can't go back to OBS. You know, every tool, we're big Ecamm fans. We have the mugs, we have the t-shirts and everything, but at the same time, OBS, for an open source platform, it's got everyone along the way. But once you go to Ecamm, I completely agree. And hey, Miss Jill, another great event producer. Ecamm is the real deal. Absolutely. If you haven't been following Jillian's been doing crazy things with Ecamm Live and like live production environments. Multi-shoots, corporate shoots, and everything else. We have such a great community. Hey, Michael Jackson, great having you on today.
Great to have you back,
good.
Michael.
Yeah, and love the app. Yeah, for sure. So, hey, let us know where you're from. We're actually coming all from sunny Florida, the crazy capital of the world right now. And Amy, Brittany, so what's going on? How's it going today?
Things are great. We have a really exciting show today about presenters, so really excited.
Yeah,
for sure.
Can't wait to share all of the things that you guys can do to level up your speaker lineup.
That's right. And we're going to be talking, like I said in the intro, and yeah, Miss Jill, so good to have you. And yes, sir. And yeah, I hug my absolutely. I live in Ecamm. I've spent more time in Ecamm. What's funny is we're probably in 2022, a lot of our client work is going to be going back to hybrid events. And honestly, I'm having anxiety thinking about, I need to go back into this role of CEO and executive director, and I still want to be the producer. And so it's it's going to be interesting. Hey, Phil, how you doing?
Phil.
And then we have J-Man. Oh, from Rochester, and it's snowing. I think we had some rain this week, but what's the weather like? Brittany and Amy, give us a weather report.
Still a little gloomy on my end.
Gloomy, but hot. So, summer.
Awesome. Well, hey, let's jump into our content today. So as we are talking through, we've gone through our building blocks of the blueprint for event success. And let's just kind of review that, again as we go. So we came up with Lionsden. So Lionsden Solutions, we do anywhere from small scale online events to large scale in-person events and everything in between, including revenue and funding and all this other stuff for our clients, and now from us. And so as we go into this, we talked a couple of weeks ago, we had Stephanie Liu on, and we appreciate her so much. And we talked through the fundamentals of the blueprint. And then we had Carlette Hewitt on, and we talked through platforms. We have some more content coming up on platforms soon where we're going to start reviewing a lot of the platforms out there. I mean, there's great ones like, Run the World Today and Swap Card and just so many things. And here's a secret. If you're thinking about using Run the World Today, you want to head over to AppSumo. If you're not familiar with AppSumo, it's basically it's a clearinghouse of. They currently have a lifetime Run the World subscription available that I actually just grabbed. I didn't even tell Brittany. This is you.
Yep. The week after that, we're going to be talking about audience engagement and how to keep them engaged the whole time, before, during, and after an event.
For sure. And then it all comes down to the run of show. And we know that Stephanie Liu on Showrunner, if you haven't caught any of the Showrunner episodes, jump back to those, grab them. She talks about run of show. We're going to talk about what we come up with. And it's not just how to put together that schedule, but it's what you can do with that schedule when you lay it out as your blueprint and you really start evaluating what the audience experience is and what the supporters and the presenters experience is, as well. Then, of course, we're going to talk about production. We have a lot of exciting things coming up with that. So without further ado, I think we need to start getting into leveling up your presenters. We have a lot of content to get through. And so we invite you, if you do have questions for us or thoughts or ideas, or you want to contribute to this, definitely leave us some comments. And at the end, when we get through all of this content, we'll definitely jump into some Q&A. If you help us out by putting a Q in front of it, that helps us quite a bit. So leveling up presenters, we're going to really talk through 3 different things today. Like I said before, yes, they need a great camera, they need a great microphone, they need good lighting. Those are fundamentals. If you have presenters coming to your event, your webinar, they're guests on a live stream, just if you have the budget, go ahead and put together a camera kit. For $100, you can level them up some. For a couple $100, you can get them there. But, if you have paid speakers and paid events, it's worth it to grab that like Sony ZV-1 and a couple of ring lights and a microphone, invest $1,000, $1,200, rent it out to your clients and have them return it. And so, so you have to figure out what budget works for you. But today we're going to be talking about building your lineup. And Brittany is going to take us through Amy's going to take us through a look at how we get those right presenters and speakers to get them involved and get them in your network and joining in your presentations. Brittany's going to take us through the 8 Ps for leveling up your presenters. Speakers are your VIPs. And that's something that Lionsden, so our company, Lionsden Solutions, and our events, especially when we did the in-person events, and we'll talk through some of this, we found out that if we treated our speakers as our VIPs, it leveled up their game and their emotions and their self-confidence and how they presented to our audiences. And then finally, I'm going to be talking about it's a wrap, but the show is not over. Many times your relationships with your presenters start right when their show is over. So you definitely want to jump into that. So hey, without further ado, Amy, talk to us about building your lineup.
Yeah, thank you, Kevin. So you guys, building your lineup, the first part of this 3 series we're going to go through in today's show, so important. So finding your presenters, right? How do you find your presenters? You're going to use your network. I cannot stress the importance enough of using your network. You may ask, how am I supposed to use my network in a virtual environment? Well, there's ways that you can do it in person and there's ways that you can do it virtually. And so I'm going to go through a few of those things for you now. In person, we used to travel. We used to do all of these different things, travel to events and different programs, shows, trade shows, you name it, right, Kevin? And when we did that, we were able to meet with so many people. We were able to relationship build. And so those are some of the ways that when you do get back out there safely and start going to these events, make sure that you take advantage of that opportunity. Keep in mind, whenever you're looking at who you would like to speak at your event, that you are seeking those people out. But don't just seek them out to say, hey, I want you to come speak. seek them out to see who they are as a person, like what they can bring to you and that relationship build, because you just never know when you're expanding your network who you may need for what event in the future. So that's one way that you can build your network in person. Virtually, you can actually use these wonderful platforms, Swapcard, Run the World. Kevin, I know you've mentioned a couple of them. It's still a great way to network, you guys. You can go in and you can build your company profile. You can attend, look at ahead of time, like who the agenda is, like who's speaking on the agenda, what sessions you're interested in. Do some of those things ahead of time so that whenever you actually go into the event on the back end, they can set up things with your Zoom so that they can have like one-on-one meetings with you. And then last but not least, there's many things I could keep going on with this one, but LinkedIn is your best friend, you guys. Make sure that you go and in-person networking out of any time. If you go and look at who you want to have speak and you meet them and you have you start talking with them and vibing out, then make sure you connect with them on LinkedIn, because that's the place that you're going to be able to build that relationship outside of these platforms when the networking has ended in those, and continue to build value in your, hopefully even a friendship, depending upon, what kind of KOL they are. So that's one thing I think that's really important, is to build your network, build your lineup by getting your network. Yes,
right. And this is when Amy and I, we traveled a lot together, raising funds for a nonprofit in the healthcare sector. And when we traveled, a lot of times before we'd even get to an event that we're going to, whether we're exhibiting or presenting or whatever, we've already identified who is speaking at that event, who we may want to target to come and speak at one of our events, who those KOLs are. And then just a tip, especially on LinkedIn, as you know, you get these notifications that so-and-so viewed your profile, right? Well, you can reverse that. And let's say that there is a leading expert in your field who's presenting at an upcoming virtual event or in-person event, and you want to meet that person and potentially either invite him or her or their network to come and present at one of your events. Well, go to their LinkedIn account. Click on it every couple of days leading up to the conference, because they're going to start seeing, hey, Kevin Lyons keeps looking at my profile. Who's this Kevin Lyons person? Go ahead and connect with them on LinkedIn ahead of time and just say, hey, I'm going to be at event XYZ next week, or I'm attending this virtual event next week, and I see you're presenting. I'm really excited about your presentation. Definitely when you connect with someone on LinkedIn, put something in the body as you connect with them. So now when you go to that virtual event or whatever, make sure that your profile picture matches your LinkedIn picture. Fill out that profile on the platform, whether it's Whova or Hopin, or all of them have the profiles that you can fill out so that you're staged for success for networking. So that's so good. Definitely, that was through networking.
That's a great point, Kevin. Thank you. I love that. I'll have to even keep that in mind to make sure we're doing that all the time. But in addition, I think something else that you said is put the message in there and connect with them, but don't spam them, right? People don't like to be spammed. Let's be authentic when we're networking. So I had to throw that in there. Authenticity is key, right? When you're building your lineup. The next one is ask for recommendations. You guys, so many people, right? You never know who you could talk to and who is already in your network that may already have the connection to that next I'd say perfect, but there's no perfect. That next speaker for you. There are people in your family and your close network and your acquaintances, LinkedIn, these platforms. Just make sure that you're building your network so that you can then also tap into their networks and say, hey, I have a great opportunity for this for someone. Do you know a great key opinion leader or somebody who's a top thought leader, subject matter expert, that would be able to help us out and be interested in speaking at this event? And you'll be surprised at some of those connections that you make.
Absolutely. So good. So then once you kind of identify them, you want to be specific, right, on these visions and goals.
Yes, absolutely. So when you are specific, it's all about expectations, right? You can't meet expectations if you aren't managing expectations. And so with that, what is the purpose of your event? What is the purpose of their presentation? And that's okay if you don't know that right away, because like I said, when you're meeting these people and you're building your lineup, you're not necessarily just building your lineup for one particular event. It could be you're building your lineup for a whole industry. It could be that you're meeting multiple industries. So you're meeting all kinds of interesting people that could be building a lineup for multiple shows. So you want to make sure that when you do have the information, you can, in that conversation, you can manage their expectations by sharing what is the purpose of this particular event that you're looking at if you have one in mind. Who is your target audience with this? Do I appeal to them? Because some people may think that they may not be a great person for them, for your audience, and you could actually show them how much they are a great candidate to speak at your conference. So I think that that's really important to manage those expectations as well.
For sure. And I think, something you said is let them know who the audience is at your conference, because many times, in the early days, be like, hey, this would be a great presenter, and they get on stage, and like we work a lot with nurses and advanced practice providers, and if they're thinking that they're presenting to physicians or pharmacists, the message could be completely off target of, of who their point person is as far as who that delivery is for. So now that, so good, Amy, so good.
Yeah. And I mean, in this world where we're now starting to return to in-person events and hybrid events, what format are you looking for? Does it work for the people that you're asking about, right? I mean, Brittany, you can kind of touch on this too, and I know you will a little bit more, but it depends on what kind of schedule they have and what kind of time frame that they need in order to be able to speak, right?
Yeah, that's so true. I think, let's say you really want them to talk for an hour and want 15 really engaging minutes of Q&A at the end. I think they really need to know that so they can prepare their presentation and maybe even be prepared to answer questions. So I am all about the communication and preparing them in advance. It helps them build the best presentation.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And so the last one, and before we move on, is it worth it to them? Right? Because people's time is valuable. You want to make sure that you're respecting that time by making sure that this opportunity is worth it to them. Set them up for success. We're going to talk a little bit more about that in a few more minutes, but just make sure that when you're going to somebody and requesting something, that you have your facts in line, that you know that this is a great opportunity for them and that you're setting them up for success, because then that already starts to build confidence on the front end, right?
Right. And it's really a value proposition, to the presenter as well as, what do they get out of it, and, what does success look like as well. And I think, and we talked a lot about this last week on marketing is, your speakers, sure, your audience or your attendees is the obvious marketing target, but then your sponsors is a marketing target, your speakers are a marketing target, and and you want to make sure that all of your brand pull through, and even your communication with your speakers, pull that brand through. What I mean by that is make sure you're on color, the logos there, the language, the messaging, and you're actually marketing to them to come and speak at your presentation just as much as you're marketing to the attendees to come and join you.
Yeah. So the next one is, and I think I kind of touched on this one a little bit, but tell them what to expect, Kevin and Brittany. Tell them, meet those expectations. I'm reiterating this point because it's so important. And I know we mentioned a little bit about the target audience, but it's possible that if they're a motivational speaker or someone that's doing your keynote, that they may not be familiar with your industry. And hopefully they'll do the research, but you can help them by sending your website for the event, your audience for who they're serving, kind of give them a little bit of a breakdown so that they can tailor their talk to your audience. You don't want them coming in with a canned presentation because they didn't know ahead of time who all they would be speaking to. And it seems a little inauthentic if it's the same thing every single time, right?
Right.
Yeah. Amy, on that point, we've had a presenter before where we even gave them a previous view of an event we've done, to where I could say, hey, this is an example of what we've done before. We want you to put your spin on it, but here's just a quick look of what this typically looks like. So it kind of gives them a little bit of a better understanding of what to expect. So if that's ever asked, I would highly recommend doing it. Yeah.
Something you could even do is put together a one sheet of, not just what your event is, but that target audience, who's going to be in the audience, who are those avatars that they should direct their content to. But I love that, Brittany, as far as, especially if you can show them, give them that kinetic, attachment of this is what it looks like from here. I think that's so important, especially as we start going back into hybrid events, virtual events. I think people are starting to get used to it. But, we have an event coming up this weekend that we've been doing some pre-record for. And it's funny, some of the people that you don't expect to just be naturals and they get it and they jump into the virtual space, they shock you. But then the people that you would expect that, they have been been on stage so many times, they sometimes come in and fumble through all of the things. So always, if you can show them what to expect, I think that it disarms them and it puts them at ease.
Yeah, it's a great point. And then really the honorarium, I won't touch too much on this because I think, Brittany, you're going to kind of go through it on a little bit more on your content here in a few minutes. But if it's something that makes sense to pay them for their time, then make sure that you're upfront. So that, again, you're managing those expectations. If you're starting out and you're in a position where you're not paying honorariums, be upfront about that. A lot of times there's other ways that speakers feel like they're bringing value by just bringing their talk, bringing their name, promoting themselves through and building that relationship. So just keep that in mind. It is a factor, but not the only factor in managing those expectations. So the next thing is give them some tools, right? In order for you to meet those expectations, let them know if it's going to be virtual. Let them know in advance what platform you're using, right, guys?
Totally.
That's a big deal. We don't all have to be tech savvy, but even if you are tech savvy, there's so many programs and platforms now that you want to make sure you're setting them up.
Yeah, I think
success.
recently, while we're doing these recordings, so we do everything on Ecamm Live as far as our recordings as well as our live production. But Ecamm Live does have interview mode, which currently we're using that with Amy and Brittany coming in on interview mode with Ecamm. One thing, if you're using interview mode on Ecamm, you want headphones. You definitely need headphones because it doesn't have that great echo cancellation like Skype or Zoom might have. But we do most of our production on Skype for various reasons, and maybe I'll go into some tech rant on this on some other broadcasts. But Skype actually is a very old platform. Most people are familiar with Zoom, especially medical professionals. And so we get them to Skype. Then we go through this whole thing of they try to use the web browser, but the web browser doesn't let you share your screen and send your camera at the same time. And then we have to have them install the application. It's just, it's not just giving them their tools, but also giving them, like, spoon feeding them their tools and letting them know what to expect. And many times they will say, okay, so where are all the viewers going to be? Are the attendees going to be on the Skype call as well? And then we have to explain to them, well, no, we use Skype as our camera that comes into Ecamm that goes to a custom platform, like the swap cards around the world. It just gets complicated, and you really want to try to distill that down and make it as easy as possible for them.
Yes, so much. So then if it's in person, another one, are they going to have a teleprompter, right? Are they going to have this second, we call it the confidence monitor. Is it something that they're going to be able to view their notes? Can I tell you guys how many times we've been in events and speakers are like, hey, but where are my notes? But we didn't know until last night, or, because it depends on communication. But if they don't let you know ahead of time and you guys aren't putting that plan into place, that's something that you could also be doing ahead of time to make sure that you're giving them the tools that they need. Hey, we won't have a confidence monitor, or make sure we have your notes printed out for you if it's in person, or if it's virtual, you won't be able to see it while you're presenting. So make sure you have them sitting next to you and you've kind of studied some points. So I think things like that. The funniest
one to me, quietly
though,
shuffle the papers around the microphone when you're switching between the notes.
Yes, maybe note cards would be better or something. But I think a funny story to me is when we started doing all of these presentations with the LCD screens in person, and they would come with their pointers. And it was like, they're thinking that they can, point, and it's part of what they're doing in their presentation. And you're like, no, you can't, that doesn't show up on this. So, that's kind of a funny story to me, and everybody gets around it. But people, a lot of times, are so used to having their laser pointers in the past, from their presenting in live. So other than that, this kind of leads me to the last point which is communicate, right? All of this ties in together with communicate. You cannot over communicate. You can under communicate. You cannot overdress to an event. You can underdress to an event. So if you are putting all of these steps into place to make sure that you're communicating, you will build their confidence. You will make sure that they are going to have a wonderful presentation and not fall flat because they knew the expectations ahead of time, and they'll have time to prepare. So right, guys, this is a huge one. You have to communicate.
I think so many times, let's be honest, speaking to a camera, it's It's a learned skill. It's not a natural skill. So especially in the virtual space, it can be very uncanny. I mean, we have, presenters that literally are squirming in their seats, trying to muster up, their presentation. And we're constantly trying to, and I'll talk about this a little bit later, constantly trying to do whispering, of it's going to be okay. We have you. We're your safety net, and all of those things. But one way that you can unarm anxiety is communication, letting them know what to expect, giving them the tools they need. Everything that Brittany is going through, it just lowers and lowers and lowers that anxiety to where when they get to the green room and they're ready for the broadcast, they're ready for the recording, they're on their best game.
Yeah.
Yes, definitely. Well, actually, we have put together 8 Ps to level up your presenters. And I'm going to go through those now with you guys. And these are just some suggestions. And I'm actually curious when we're done, if you guys have any, throw them in the comments. We'd love to hear them. These are only 8. We could have gone on for days. So the first P is promote. This is huge. We talked about marketing last week. You have to promote your speakers. They're your VIPs to your event. This means include them in your marketing. Put them on your social. Something you could even do is ask them to jump on live with you and do a little teaser of what their session's going to be about. That is a way to create excitement for your event, give people an understanding of what's coming up and what they may miss out on if they don't attend. I know, Amy, Kevin, from your guys' marketing side, what are some really important things or unique ways that people could promote their presenters?
Yeah, I would say one, Kevin, I'll probably beat you to the punch with this one, is find out who your key opinion leaders, your A-lister speakers are, and market them. Not that everybody's not important, but marketing does need to draw the names that people actually know, right?
Sure. I mean, if you have an event and you have and this goes back to when we used to do the large motivational seminars, we would have someone like Zig Ziglar speaking. Well, he's a headliner, and you definitely want to market him. And if you market it correctly, whether it's Zig, or maybe you have Stephanie Liu speaking, or Gary Vaynerchuk, or whoever it is that's speaking at your event. And these are some of the larger events where you have some investment. You want to make sure that there's not a separation between your headliners and the rest of the speakers, but rather you're leveraging your headliners to bring the entire faculty or the entire lineup to another level. And I think that is where the promote piece comes in. Another unique way that you can promote is ask them if they would do a live with you prior to your conference. One thing that we do is for our primary client, we pre-record a lot of the educational content, but we sandwich it between a live moderator that comes on a live broadcast, and then the presenter comes back for a live Q&A. Well, we record that hopefully weeks ahead of time, sometimes days ahead of time, their educational piece. But during that recording, ask them right then, hey, before we hang up on this call, can you give us a quick shout out saying, hey, I'm so excited about coming to the Event Stream Summit and talking about this topic and this and that and the other, and just record it right there. And that becomes great video content that you can share on your social. But then before they hang up, say, hey, this wasn't that bad, right? This is where you're going to come back to when we do the live. Do you have any time like today or tonight or tomorrow, or be right? If you're on Ecamm Live, you can go live like this and just do a quick soundbite and say, hey, we're going to take 5 minutes live with this presenter, pitching what's coming up, and ask them those questions of what are you going to share on and what's your experience and why is this topic important to you?
Yeah, I think great. One other way that we didn't touch on quite yet would be if you're already marketing your event, give them some materials to use on their platforms. They probably are already cultivating the audience that you're targeting, which is why you've invited them to present, right? So give them pieces to put on their social that say, hey, I'm speaking, come hear me. Here's where you can register. So I think you should love all those ideas, guys. Those were great. The next P is prepare. So Amy and Kevin, we all kind of talked about this a few minutes ago, but this one I think is huge. I think people should even consider giving their speakers an agreement or maybe even a one sheet, like Kevin mentioned, that has everything on it. Let's say you need visuals from them or videos from them or graphics or a slide deck. Tell them up front what date you would need that information from. Tell them you're going to be going live on X time on X date. Give them all the information that you feel that would help them best prepare. A few other things that you could do is clarify who else is speaking. What is your whole event about? And not just their slice of their session, but really a full view of the whole presentation and the whole event so that they can feel like they understand the big goal so that they can help meet the little goals. The next one would be pair them with other presenters. We've talked about this with kind of creating some space for them to connect with others. So if you're hosting an event on a certain topic and you're bringing in multiple presenters, they're all in the same industry, very likely. It was very a cool opportunity. I know Amy, you touched on honorarium. Maybe you don't have the funds up front or in the beginning stages to offer them money. An opportunity to offer them would be an opportunity to meet others within their network. So actually, Kevin, I think you had some ideas we talked about recently of some cool ways to connect the presenters together. Do you want to go through some of those?
Sure, absolutely. So, if you think about back in the day of live conferences or, summits or forums, one of the great things that would happen is the green room conversations. And that's where all of the presenters, it's kind of like the green room took, whether they're headliners or they're, people that are up and coming speakers, and they all get together and they get to mingle and they get to talk and they get to share notes. Some of the things that you can do virtually ahead of time. Now, it's going to be hard to say, hey, let's all jump on the Zoom call because that might be awkward and they would be distracted from the conference. But maybe set up a communications channel. They may not want to do a group text, but if you use Slack, which is a communications platform, set up a Slack channel so that they can all get to know each other. Maybe it's a place that's kind of a presenter or lineup huddle where you invite all of your speakers to, so you can have group conversations about what to expect about your event. And during that time, you can make introductions to each other because it's networking and they're coming for the same reason. If you're getting those presenters that are the KOLs or the key opinion leaders, the thought leaders, the content subject experts, they want to meet each other. And so provide some environment. So it could be a Slack channel. You could even host, again, depending upon availability, you could even host a speaker's reception. This is something to where if you write that into their agreement, this becomes a sponsor opportunity as well. The sponsors want to have access to those speakers and presenters as well. So create an environment that you can bring them together. At minimum, I would say, is to at least send an email out to them all to let them know these are the other presenters that are presenting. These are the topics everyone's presenting on, and this is how you can get in touch with each other. Give their, put in their social card, their, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, all the different ways that they are available to connect. And then I think if you share that with each other, it'll create that synergy. And one of the big things that happens with us, especially in the healthcare space, accredited education, the scientific education space, is if everyone gets their topics, their outlines, and what we're looking for them to educate on our conferences on, but they don't know what everyone else is educating on, you can have a lot of educational overlap in content. But if you share that across everyone and you pair the speakers together and say, hey, and this actually just happened, we had one of the top immunologists speaking at our conference coming up this weekend, along with one of the top nurse practitioners or CNSs in rheumatology, and they're talking on a very similar topic. Well, they collaborated and they still did two presentations, but the education quality just skyrocketed as a result of that. So let your speakers meet each other. It will be part of their memory of the experience of feeling special and appreciated, and they'll come away, with those connections and network.
That's great.
Yeah, that's awesome. I agree. Yeah. The next P we have is practice with them. Practice, practice, practice. As Kevin, you mentioned, not everyone is super comfortable kind of talking to a camera at first, and this obviously is for the virtual events, but practice, I can't really say makes perfect, but practice typically gives everyone a little boost of confidence. So I would go through everything with them as much as you can. If you're going to go live, then I would set up a run through with them ahead of time where you can go through and practice. Hey, here's how you're gonna sign on. Here's where we're gonna connect. If you need to share your screen, let's practice doing that. Okay, go ahead and share your screen. This is the opportunity where if they're struggling with like their lighting or their internet or maybe their camera, for you to take the time to kind of troubleshoot with them. You don't want to be troubleshooting live. So practice ahead of time definitely helps. Let's say you're having an in-person event, same thing. If you have the opportunity to do it, take them to the backstage area where they're going to get mic'd and say, hey, this is where we're going to meet at 3:30 tomorrow, and this is where you're going to get mic'd up. This is how you're going to enter stage. This is how you're going to exit stage. So just basically preparing and prepping and practicing with them as much as you can really calms those nerves. And I really think that when you're practicing and you're getting some of these kinks out of the way ahead of time, I think it gives the speaker confidence in you as like the producer or the staff that we've got this side of it. Don't worry about these details. We need you to bring the content. So it kind of puts them at ease and builds confidence in you, which I think is super important.
Absolutely. So good.
Yeah. Our next P is actually empower them. You want to have some words of probably just confidence boosting with them. Tell them to interact with the audience. Tell them to be themselves. I know our life coach, Amy, over here. Any advice to a presenter that's maybe a little bit nervous, or even a staff member or producer that needs to give some words of wisdom before they go live?
Yeah, no, that's great. So as a vocalist, I have always been taught that it is 50% confidence and 50% your voice. And Kevin, you're actually a vocalist too, so you can probably chime in here. But if you are not confident, you will not sing well. And that is like a physiological thing, your diaphragm and everything, you know. So when you're presenting, you have to project, you have to enunciate, you know. I think it has to do with teaching them how to empower themselves as a presenter, to be authentic, and then to keep moving forward with trusting themselves through that entire presentation. If you mess something up, it's okay. You're human. Keep going, right?
Absolutely. And I think another thing that ties into that is I love, and our team, we always kind of argue back and forth on this. They're like, Kevin, you should bring in some more remote producers. Do you have to do all the recordings of all the presenters ahead of time? And I love doing it because it gives me an opportunity to connect with the presenter when we're pre-recording their content. And some of the things that I find myself gravitating towards with them is really kind of edifying them, saying, you know, we are so thankful and grateful that you're taking time away from, if they're a healthcare professional, from your patients. You're taking a time away from your personal things, from your career, from other things, to do this thing for us, which is so important to us. And we hope that it's beneficial to you, that you're building them up. You're kind of exalting them a little bit to say, you know, you're special, and we chose you, and we were so surprised and thankful that you said yes. And when you do that, it elevates them. Share with them about some of the other people. Maybe they're not an A-lister, but maybe talk about, we have this person who's also presenting, and we can't wait to introduce you to them and have you guys meet each other because you share these like-mindedness on topics. All of this is building rapport with them, and it's, again, giving them ease. And then, like Brittany also said, let them know we got you. You know, many times my conversation with them, you know, it's like, hey, when you come back on, you know, next Friday when you're live for your session, I have to tell you, things happen when things go live. We've seen cameras fall over. We've seen people stumble. We've seen all types of things. Kids walk in, all that. Go with it. But what we're going to do is we're going to stop the broadcast of your broadcast, and I'm going to come on camera and say, hey, we're having some technical difficulties, and we'll be right back with you. It's live. Anything can happen. You then work out your world, come back together, get comfortable. When you're ready, I'll bring you back in. Now, of course, Ecamm Live with preview mode makes that a lot easier. Now, we use some other platforms as well, but definitely lower the expectation of failure and raise the expectation of comfort and success. And it's all about just empowering them, and it pays off so much. We actually started to take the time on this. We actually had a presenter pre-record their recording last Friday for our event coming up this weekend, and they really weren't confident in the content that they were delivering. They were reading slides. They were, you know, kind of reading what's on the screen, and we said, you know what? I have some time Sunday night. Let's pause and let's pull back from this. Take the weekend to reflect upon your presentation. What you did was good, but let's move that to great. And they came back and they just killed it. So always give them that opportunity of your pre-recording to do it again. This doesn't have to be perfect. This is people. People are not perfect. And so you want to make sure that you portray that to them in a way that can be a positive building environment for them, just to throw some more P's in there.
That's great.
I love it.
No,
I think that's super helpful. Yeah. Our sixth P is pamper them, which actually is my favorite one. I think this is a way you can really say thank you and appreciate them speaking at your event, taking the time out of their day. Some of them may need to rest off work, travel, leave their families. So I think that we have some really unique ways that we do this that I'll kind of talk through. And then any of these aspects of pampering them, I feel are really beneficial, even if you're only able to pick up one or two of them. But let's say you have an in-person event. something that you could do would be maybe offer them car service from the airport to your venue. What we've done before is that we've assigned a staff to be our speaker handler at our on-site events, where they're kind of treating our speakers as VIP, all of them. And so we would be able to kind of handhold them through the process of arriving on site, checking into their hotel room. We would even hand them a branded bottle of water and said, hey, welcome. We're so excited you're here. Along with that, we would make sure they didn't have any hiccups in their travel, make sure that their focus is really being prepared for their presentation and not trying to figure out, where am I going? What time do I need to be there? We would even hand them a little sheet of paper that had our contact on it and said, hey, if you have any questions over the next couple of days or the next few hours, let us know. We're here for you. I think on something you hand them, I think it would be helpful to give them a reminder of time. What time are you supposed to be meeting us in the green room? What time are you supposed to be backstage? Where's your presentation so you don't get lost? Giving them kind of all those details. We talked about being prepared earlier, and this is where this can be reiterated for them. Again, to really feel confident in the staff and in the production, but also in themselves, that they don't have to think through how to get from point A to point B. It's really efficient. It's really helpful to you as the production, but it's also really a nice personal touch for them. They feel really special. We typically would do this all the way through, even them walking off stage. So this is where I can kind of translate to virtual. Just even a simple thank you. I think people feel really appreciated being told, hey, you did a great job. We'd love to have you again. Thank you so much for doing this. It was awesome. We're really appreciative. That can be with a handwritten note, maybe a gift in the mail, but at minimum, I'd say an email. I think everyone appreciates feeling like they're recognized and they did a good job.
Yeah, and this is something that Brittany, you and your team, y'all take this over the top, and the Lions Den team does. We actually had a keynote. This is one of our last large in-person conferences. Our community manager, Katrina, who is part of the Lions Den team, she was on point for speaker relations for this conference, and she met this keynote speaker, at the car. He comes out of the car. Well, she already looked up his picture. Well, because of the promotion, she knew who she was looking for, and she was like, "Hi, keynote," and he looked over and he was like, "Hi, you. I have no idea who you are." And she's like, "Hi, I'm Katrina. I'm here to make sure that you have a great experience as you present at this conference." And so she went through a lot of those, and he actually asked her, he goes, "This is the most absurd thing that I've ever had, happen. Can I, take a picture of you, and can we reenact that? Because I'm going to put that into my keynote presentation, because my keynote presentation is trying to turn healthcare experiences into positive VIP experiences." And so, he actually used her in a presentation, but that presenter now has a rapport with us, and he knows Katrina, he knows Kevin and Brittany and Amy and everyone, from there, because, we made him feel special, and pampering them is so key. And it's not just placating to them. It's not, being like, "Oh, you're so wonderful," and throwing rose petals in front of them. It's authentic, sincere, appreciation, and letting them, feel special. This is their time, their day, and you don't want them to be anything but on their game in the middle of that.
Yeah,
I think everybody, authenticity is huge.
Yeah, I was just going to add that everybody speaks, but everybody asks everybody to speak at different conferences. But what are you going to do to level up the expectation of, come speak for us, make yourself unique, and not just, again, be authentic, Brittany, to your point, but just set yourself apart and make sure that it's a valuable experience for both parties.
Yes, I love that. I know when Kat and I were brainstorming for that event, Kevin, you're referring to, it was really like, how can we make them feel, wow, I want to come speak for them again. That was amazing. No other place does this. This is unheard of. And that's exactly what we accomplished by going above and beyond. So yeah, all of those points, definite yes. Our seventh P is actually pair it and quote them. Repeat and share their key nuggets. You want to almost create a FOMO, fear of missing out, for those who maybe didn't make it to your event. This will only hype up wanting to figure out, man, I missed that. That was awesome. Where can I see it now? How can I attend the next one? And really just start spreading the word. And it really elevates the presenter because they had a great presentation, and elevates your brand and what you're trying to accomplish through your live events. And our last but not least,
real quick, a tip on that with PARROT. This is kind of new. Sorry to interrupt you, Brittany. Is when you're pre-recording content, so let's say it's a virtual conference and you're pre-recording the education and you're doing what we're doing where it's a half, live, half pre-recorded, don't be afraid to take that pre-recording and take a soundbite out of it and put that into your promotion. And one of the things that we spoke on last week on marketing is if you're marketing this as a live virtual conference, a live virtual, experience, be live. But if you share, hey, we have some pre-recorded content, but it's a live production of this. We're premiering videos, but we'll be live with you. If that's disclosed, don't be afraid of taking a nugget out of that soundbite and say, maybe you come on and do your own live, and you could be like, oh my goodness, we just had Dr. Smith come on and we recorded his content. You do not want to miss this content in their conference. Here, let's take a quick listen. And you give that preview. Okay. Register, sign up today, and we'll see you on this date and time. So yeah, definitely parrot them. Also using a platform like Descript. Descript will actually, you can take that video and transcribe it, and then you can edit it super easy to just grab out the words and that grabs out the video. So anyways, Descript's a great platform for that as well.
Yeah, I agree completely. Those are really good pieces because I think it kind of goes back to creating that FOMO. Like, man, that was awesome. If I don't attend, I am going to miss out and I want to be there. So I highly recommend that. Our final P, and again, there's plenty more, I'm sure, is praise them. Say thank you. You were awesome. We can't wait to have you back again. Again, authenticity is important here. So really just thank them for their time and welcome them. And hopefully you'll have a future collaboration, whether it's on the presentation or another partnership together. Have there been any unique things, Kevin, that we've experienced with our presenters when they've kind of been done presenting with us that we've been able to connect with them after?
Yeah, I think, one thing I say to kind of bridge into that is your marketing does not end the day of the event or at the event.
Yes.
You should have a post-event marketing strategy to where you look back, especially if you're doing a replay and you're still having registration open for your replays, but you look back, and when you do that, a lot of great content can be praising the presenters. We had the expert on XYZ present, and we want to thank, Barbara Smith for presenting on X, Y, and Z, and have her picture up there. Maybe even have, if this is for a client, have that client's CEO or that client's, a person come on and do a thank you video of, we just want to thank you so much for coming and presenting at our conference. And if you haven't seen her presentation, you can still watch it, by the replay. I mean, and that gives that verbal open thing. But as far as some examples, many, many times we have had presenters come on, especially ones that we kind of feel it's a stretch for us to even ask in the healthcare space. These are leading, experts, leading doctors, people that work at NIH, people that work at, the Cleveland Clinics and the Mayos of the world, that we're like, oh my goodness, they said yes. But then we give them this experience, and we hear things like, we have never been treated with that much respect, or we have never been treated or had that experience. We've never had a car service pick us up from the airport to bring us in. Now, the secret behind that, and this is back in the live event space, is we send the car because we want to know that their butt is in the car and is on the way to the venue and is worth the $49 to do it. But anyway, 100%. But I would say the biggest value out of praising is it positions them, another P for you, positions them to promote the event, not just the event. And this is something that I'll talk about here in a little bit in my segment, is there's this shift, I believe, happening in the event space. Instead of an event being an event on a date or time, it becomes a 365 experience to where you're actually, wanting to pull through that, promotion and marketing and brand elevation all the way through for the next time. I would never do an event to only do one event. That's something that we learned back in the motivational space, is you're always going to, pre-sell, and you're going to sell, then you're going to sell again. You're going to, always be closing. All of those, pointing back to those days, authentically, not the snake oil sales stuff, but the real stuff. And so you always want to push the ball forward, and by praising them, it promotes and it propels them to help promote your next event. Just some more P's that just keep coming to me.
Yes, I love it. I think we could have like 50 P's, but those are our 8. But if you have additional tips, tricks, questions, throw them in the comments. We'll go over them.
Absolutely.
Please do.
Absolutely. All right, so let's jump into it's a wrap, but the show's not over. So there's last week we talked about debriefs at the end of the shows and how important that was to kind of discuss what went good and what went bad. We talked about having the crap list. We talked about, all those things. That's the beginning of the end of the show. But here's some things to consider about the show not being over. Now, this one's actually something I consider before the show begins, though. So I snuck this one in here. Your speakers should be automatic attendees, instant attendees. Yeah. You don't want to charge them for registration. You do want to send them all the goodies that you're sending all of your attendees. If you're sending them a conference in a box or promotional swag or discounts or maybe mastermind access or whatever, your attendee should have, so your speaker should have VIP access, VIP A-list access to everything that you're offering and then some. Again, you promote them, you position them, and they're going to come in and deliver for you what your objective is. And I hope, like we kind of showed in the beginning, you should have a goal and objective of why this person is coming to your event to speak on this topic. And you should target everything you have to support them and be their cheerleader and drive them to that. Another important thing about them being an attendee is you want them to participate. One of the things that we share with our presenters is, listen, you're not the first presenter. If they're not the first presenter, if you want to get a look and feel of what to expect, you should come and attend every session, especially if you're speaking later in the day or later in the event, because then you have all of this kinetic knowledge of content of what's being shared, and you can use that to enrich your presentation when it's time for you to present. Now, the promoter or the producer's benefit of this is you get that presenter in the chat, because you also are going to teach them, hey, it's very important to have engagement. You should meet some of the audience ahead of time. You should be in the chat. Let them know where you're coming from. Let them know that you can't wait for them to come to your session, but this is a great session too. You should ask questions of the other presenters. Get the presenters engaged and be role models for your attendees of how to participate in the event. It becomes harmonious with all of the vibe of the event happening when you do that. So they should be an automatic attendee. Next, again, we've gone through this many, many, many times. Make sure they feel appreciated. I like physical gifts. My amazing, beautiful bride, Vicky, she brought gift giving into the culture of Lions Den. So anytime we do conference in the box, or we, are sending things to speakers or clients or whatever, it's thoughtful, it's intentional, it's authentic. It's, and people ask her, Vicky, how do you always buy the best gifts? She goes, well, I only buy things that I would want to receive, right? And so, drive the appreciation. I think if anything that you're going to hear from this whole video, this whole replay you're watching, is this is all intentionality. This is being intentional on making sure that you're making these decisions, and it's important. This is just about speakers. We could spend probably a day on each one of these topics as we go through. Okay, this one gets a little sensitive. Is you do want to share audience feedback. Now, there's a lot of different type of events and presentations out there. There's there's presentations like what we do, which is accredited education, where they're sharing scientific information. Many times in those settings, there's a critical nature, not a mean nature, but a critical nature that comes across in some of the audience feedback, because you are going to do a post-event evaluation, right? Right? Everyone's like shaking their yes. We're doing the post-event evaluation. We're going to ask people, what did they experience? What did they like? What would like to see more of? Ask them for a quote. Oh my goodness. We could do a whole, maybe this is like episode 9 as we talk about data, metrics, outcomes, and evaluations. Because your evaluations turns into your sponsorship information, that turns into how you're going to promote and share and make successful decisions for your next event. So anyways, audience feedback. You want to make sure that you get that audience feedback and you share it in a way that is encouraging and edifying to the presenter. And you do want to share the negative feedback too. Because if I'm presenting, I want to know, was my content on point? Did I deliver value? Was I clear in my communication? Did I deliver on the promise of my personal brand? Did I show up and give what you've experienced and the reason why you asked me to come? as a professional presenter or an emerging presenter, you want to know all that information, and you want to know when you're not doing good. It hurts, but you want to know when you're not doing good, but it builds trust. But never send it as a form of judgment. Use it as a form of opportunity to build that relationship with them and say, hey, we're in this together. We had this, audience member. She was, maybe a negative Nelly or something, but, does any of this resonate with you, or should we just discard this as an outlier? It gives you that relationship building opportunity. But I know that, sometimes it's cringeworthy, but here's the thing is those are the outliers. You're usually most of the time it's good, it's positive, because it's also a reflection on you, the event promoter, the event producer, the event production team, the event designer, the event owner. Because if you're doing all of these other things, you are positioning that presenter, you're their biggest cheerleader, you're positioning them for success, and it should reflect in the audience feedback. So, I mean, Brittany and Amy, I think we've gone through this. We've sat with clients in like rooms at the end of a conference, debriefing over piles and piles of written evaluations, and it's interesting, but there's so much learning to be had there.
Yeah, I think it's super critical.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. So, all right, next up, ask for referrals and expand your network. Again, you just gave this presenter an amazing experience. You just allowed them to be on the stage and feel bigger than life and connect with an audience, and they were appreciated, they were parroted, they were quoted, they were praised, they were all of these things. You now have the potential of a raving fan. And you want to ask them, hey, who else in your network, who other thought leaders do you know? What other colleagues do you have that we may call upon to be a part of some of our future conferences, our future live streams, our future events, webinars, or whatever? And would you mind sharing with them or making an introduction to them for us? You want to ask them right then. There's a great book, kind of an old book called The Referral Engine. And one of the things that the Referral Engine really focuses on is you ask for referrals first, sometimes before you even close the deal. Same type of principle here. Ask for referrals, expand your network, because you now have leveled up your game, you've leveled up your presenter's game, and together you should kind of level up the opportunities in the network. So again, networking, this is where, Amy and Brittany both are master networkers. I miss the times of being on planes and going into meetings and all that, but it's coming back soon. I think everyone's passport is itching. So finally, is you want to have that internal evaluation. And what I mean by this is you want to have a safe space that I kind of look at it as if you're producing the event for a client, you have your internal team without your client present. You have the next round with your client present of these conversations about what did we really feel about this presenter? Did this presenter really connect with the audience? Did they really deliver? Did they say something controversial, or were they completely complementary to our brand and what we're trying to project and portray? And you want to have those conversations before this next step, and that is so critical. It's because if there's someone that you wouldn't ask back, I would still praise them. I would still, unless it's a train wreck, unless it's, you have to do damage control or something, but still praise them. Pull through. Your brand is also your character, and pull that all the way through to all the interactions, because if they do pass muster, if they do come past, that, and they're someone that you want, right then at the end of the event, when they have all the endorphins and feel good and they just got off the stage, and internally you're having this back channel conversation about internal debrief about them, to where when you're thanking them, you want to invite them back right then. Get them locked in. Know your next event date, your next opportunity. Also, don't be afraid of saying, hey, and as event producers, we know a lot of other events that are going on, that some are competitive, but we know the people who produce them, and we don't mind sharing our presenters and saying, hey, you know what, you did such a great job here, you should go check out this event, and I can make an introduction to you over there if you don't have an opportunity for them in the future. So anything on that that you two would like to add in?
Yeah, I was just going to say that I really like the invite them back I just remember when you would get to thank them immediately after they were presenting on stage, right? When we were in person. And as we go back to that, the power of just being able to, and who knows if we'll shake hands, hug, whatever, but being able to walk up and thank them, hand them that bottle of water, hand them that thank you note, and say, thank you so much for being a part of our event. We are so excited to have you back again, because chances are you just watch them and you're going to know off the top of your head if you want them back again. And you can plant the seed in the head authentically that they do need to come back for a future event, but you're not sending up a strong commitment that this is the next event that you'll be speaking at. Part of building your lineup.
Absolutely. And remember, they are your VIPs. You know, you can have sponsors, you can have attendees, you can have, you know, a venue, you can have a platform, you can have a live stream. If you don't have speakers, you know, unless you're going to be the star, you know, they're your VIPs. If you have any questions, comments, or anything that you'd like to add to this, definitely share through. We have a lot more coming up in the coming weeks. Next week is going to be all about sponsorships, but M West Tech, you know, saying great dynamic background. So we have to give some props out to Alicio Way. Alicio, I mean, he has a great YouTube channel. Check him out. Alicio completely hooked us up with these motion graphics, and so we just appreciate that. And hey, Aaron, so good to see you for sure. And Dan, Mr. Plexicam, I love that. Keldson, lives and sneak peek pre-recording videos are incredibly useful for marketing. They so are, aren't they?
Yeah, absolutely.
Great. And then Anthony, so great ideas on promote for our branded campaigns, working with influencers who would have specific push commitments the influencers would do from their channels. Right. Okay. So there's a platform called Snowball, right? Oops, I didn't have that published. I apologize for that. So there's a platform called Snowball, and that's a whole pass along word of mouth, you know, platform that's out there that, you know, we could definitely, I mean, I haven't used it yet, but we know some events that are using it. I know Feather also is one that has a platform, but yeah, invite your speakers to promote for you, right? You know, and
I like how he uses their platforms, it looks like, for the branded campaigns to say, hey, you guys are a platform in yourself from an influencer standpoint. So they add that, it looks like, to your contract, if that's what you're saying, Anthony. And that's really, really great. I love that.
Yeah.
Awesome. Love that idea. And Kirk, oh my goodness. I don't know, Brittany, name me if you've caught of any of Kirk's content or his videos and stuff. This guy is polished on YouTube and polished on his live streams. I'm intimidated, Kirk, that you're even watching today. You know, I'm going to have to, you know, look at all my pixels, make sure they're all perfect, but 2 more P's. And then, yeah, loving all the P's. Appreciate you, Kirk, so much. Kirk has some great content, you know, that he's always producing. And Jillian, again, Jillian has done a lot of behind the scenes videos. She actually makes me feel bad because I feel like I should be doing more behind the scenes videos. But Jillian does great work with Ecamm. And then Kirk, man, moving on to page 3 of notes.
Thank you, Kirk. Wow.
I know. Like, maybe we should put together a binder and, like, you know, our own, you know, little event journal. So coming up, and I'm going to use a preview mode here just for a second because we have a lot of shows coming up here in the Ecamm network that we want to share. And, you know, Kirk, you're way too kind. Seriously, man, your content. If you ever have a speaker canceled, hit us up. We'd love to be a part of your show at any given time. But give me just a second. Ladies, fill a couple minutes of time for me, and I'm going to get some things up on some upcoming Ecamm shows.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. I think that I just want to encourage you guys to always ask questions and comments, and we love engaging with you guys. I know we're bringing you a lot of content, but we really want to hear from you, right, Brittany?
Yeah, I agree. The questions at the end are actually really fun. I love seeing when we're interacting with them and they've got questions or comments, even just the comments, Kirk, those are sweet and funny. I can't wait to check out your show. I have not seen it, so I will be a viewer here soon.
If you guys are taking notes and stuff like you're mentioning, go ahead and screenshot those. Put those up on social media and tag us. We would love to see them and share them and really learn about some of the things that you guys are getting out of this, because we're here for you. So we're so happy to know that we're bringing all this value and can't wait to see all the extra ideas you guys have as well.
Yeah, I love that. If I can see someone take a screenshot of some notes and tag us, I mean, that would make my day. So that'd be awesome.
There it is.
Yeah.
Brittany said
There
it.
it is. There it is.
We have had so much fun. We have so much going on. Here we go.
Yep. All right, so
Oh,
here's
wow.
some shows that we have coming up. So we're part of the Ecamm network of sponsored shows. This is a great show that is, let's see, I believe it is on Mondays, which, oh my goodness, I don't have my notes in front of me. But definitely check out, this is Fulgence and Anna, and they do an amazing job of going through all types of Ecamm related lower thirds, what you can do natively within Ecamm. So you definitely don't want to miss that. So other shows coming up, tell you what, I'm going to do an appended video for this because I do not want to mess up these other shows because there's a lot. There's the live interviews and discussions on the Ecamm Entrepreneur Show. There is also Lori Petrucci, Go Live Now, who I believe she's almost every day at 1 o'clock. We also have Showrunner. So Stephanie Liu, you don't want to miss Showrunner. I believe her last show is coming up, and she is going to be talking about, I think, support and sponsorship on that one as well. The Stream Show with Strict and Brandt, and that is actually Sundays at 7 o'clock. And then if you ever catch Bradley Teaches, and Bradley, he is a master of scenes and setups, and he'll probably call me out on the fact that I didn't have these ready at the end of this broadcast. But Bradley is an amazing guy. He takes things and does things with Keynote that I've never seen before. All of this, I would just encourage you to check out the Ecamm community on Facebook. One of the things about Ecamm that's fantastic is the platform, but it's the community that turns it into that secret sauce that is just amazing. So check it out. You can see all the shows listed there, for sure. Well, I can't believe we're already at the end of another show. Can you believe it?
The P's made it so prosperous.
That's right.
First P I can think of. I mean, I got to come up with a P now,
You guys.
Oh, for sure.
So funny.
So, all right. So next week, Amy, what do we have coming?
All right. So next week, we are going to teach you guys how to make it rain. We have Show Me the Money creative event sponsorship strategies to exceed the ROI for you and your sponsors. And we have a ton of content, so be sure to stay tuned for that.
Awesome. And then, we have so many weeks of content coming up. We're just super excited, about what's happening and watching the event industry grow. Thank you, Michael. Great show. I appreciate that, for sure. And Amy and Brittany, you guys rock. I just get to come and click buttons and stuff.
You too, Kevin the Connector. Guys, I know I took a lot of the networking, but this guy right here is one of the best networkers. So make sure that you honestly find us on our social profiles as well. Maybe we'll start sharing those because we want to make sure that we're connecting with you guys as well. We're here to provide support, value, and hang out with our event streamers. So join us.
That's right. For sure. And hey, before we jump, I do want to thank again Ecamm Live and TubeBuddy and for everything that they bring. They support a lot of streamers, a lot of things, and they see the value of live stream and live event production. And TubeBuddy, we're excited to watch. The event stream channel is a very baby YouTube channel, so it's going to be a great case study of watching TubeBuddy bring that to life, and we're excited about going forward with that. All right, well, I guess this is it. So next week, Wednesday, 12 o'clock Eastern. Join us back here on the event stream. You also will catch the replay on this. We'll have this up on YouTube, and definitely come over and like and subscribe. And thank you. And thank you, Jillian. Glad you joined. So good to have you. And we'll see you next week on the event stream.
On the stream.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.